I call this meeting to order of the Attleboro School Committee. Please rise and join the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag
to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Given notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. First thing is open forum. This is a time when members of the public may address the school committee. Open forum is not a time for committee members to engage in dialogue with members of the public. Guidelines for open forum are available to you up at the podium. Please know that we are interested in what you have to say, but we cannot respond without background information on your issue. Please come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, we have nobody wishing to speak in open forum? Okay, we'll close an open forum. Okay, we're looking for an approval of minutes from August 12th, 2013.
Second.
Discussion? Ken?
You can just go back and look at the finance facilities. Judy, I believe I have like 6 warrants into record, and the next meeting, so that section just may need to be updated. But besides that, I'd be fine approving it, knowing that's going to be updated.
Okay. You got that, Judy? Okay. We're going to approve the minutes of August 12th, 2013 with the comments that Mr. Parent has stated. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Moving on to consent agenda. We have a motion to accept the donation from $500 from BJ's Adopt a School to the Hill Roberts Elementary for deposits in the gift donations line.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We have a motion to accept the donation of $1,165.70 from Target to Attleboro High School to be deposited in the gifts donations line.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay, these next ones are were just brought to our attention. I guess when there's a physical donation, Judy, to the schools, not just in a financial matter, that actually they have to be approved by the city council, not just the school committee, because they become city property. So these are quite a few things on here we had at our last meeting, but again, we're going to work through them, and then they'll be going to the city council for final approval. So pursuant to Mass General Law 53A.5, a motion to accept and forward to city council for approval the following tangible property items: plumbing tools / equipment from Rigid Corporation to the CTE program with an estimated value of $2,700. Industrial Model 2000 air cleaning system from Minuteman Press of Seekonk to Attleboro High School with an estimated value of $1,700. A spiral punch system and pocket laminator from the Minuteman Press of Seekonk to Attleboro High School with an estimated value of $1,500. A product donation from the North Attleboro Joanne's Fabric and Craft Store from the Kids in Need Foundation for the Warm Set of Schools. The following equipment from Sensata Technology be equally distributed between the 3 middle schools: 16 Dell D630 laptops with power adapters with an estimated value of $2,800. 44 Dell Precision M65 laptops with power adapter with an estimated total value of $8,800. And 3 Norwood Commercial Furniture 24 outlet laptop charging carts with an estimated value of $1,500. We also have 4 iPads with an estimated value of $399 to the Insights programs at Willett Elementary School. And we have weight training and flooring equipment with an estimated value of $32,500 to the Attleboro High School from the Blue Pride Gridiron Club.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Moving on to new business. Before we move on to our first item, I would also like to welcome Max Lancaster, who is our new Student Advisory Board representative. So Max, welcome very much, and if you'd like to say a couple words to the committee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be back. It's good to be shuffling through the halls again. Definitely took a day or two to get reacclimated, but I'm full throttle now. Excited for the 20th ribbon cutting. Thank you.
Well, Max, thank you very much. And I think we talked about it a little earlier. We want to get Max a little more involved on school committee issues. And we're going to work those logistics out through our liaison to the Student Advisory Board, Mr. Murphy. So, Max, welcome aboard. And we'll try not to have the meetings too late because we know you also have a lot of work to do and very sports orientated. So, again, welcome, Max. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the new business. The Attleboro Big Read Committee citywide project.
Well, howdy.
Welcome.
I was gonna wear a suit. And I said, heck, why would I go and do that? The whole point of the Big Read is to make reading come alive. So I'm about to give you your copy of one of the best things you're gonna read in your life, or at least read in the next couple of weeks. The Big Read is a program of the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Attleboro Public School System has been a partner for 7 years now, in various ways. And as a partner of this group, we don't tell the partners what to do, they tell us what they can do. You're welcome. Related to Charlie Sheen? No, never mind.
I wish.
Attleboro stumbled upon the Big Read 7 years ago when we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the library. We had decided to read the book, Fahrenheit 451, and trying to figure out ways to fund the project, and found out that there was this new project going on nationwide. Back in 7 years ago, when we got our first grant, we were one of 264 communities across the country. This year we're one of 77 due to cutbacks, but Attleboro has remained a key member of the Big Read challenge put out by the National Endowment for the Arts. It's run by an organization called Arts Midwest out in Minneapolis. This project was so important to me that I actually got on a plane 7 years ago to go for training, and if you know me, I do not like to fly. And I went with Vic Bonneville, one of your ex-teachers, and after that my husband said, well, if you can do that with Vic, you can do this with me. So darn it, I go on vacations now. But it was a challenge, and what's really great about this is we have 10 great partners, we have support agencies who come to us now wanting to be a part of this and wanting to do activities. And it really is a community building experience. It's an experience that tries to make people realize that books aren't just words on paper, they're to get your imagination going, it's to have you have an adventure. So we bring that to life. Saturday we had the launch, which was reading, riding, and roping in the Balfour Riverwalk. We had about 111 kids and 140 adults in an hour and a half who rode horses, took some roping lessons, we played horseshoes, had squirt guns with cans. The jewelry outlet showed up and donated an Alex and Ani bracelet for free that people who came had a drawing for, because the bracelet this year is a Western boot. The American Girls, the dolls, their 2013 American Girl doll is a rancher from New Mexico. They donated one to us, so we're using that as a raffle for more middle school programs at the library. So we're hearing from more and more groups, and there's a great kickoff event in 2 weeks at the museum with Greenlock Therapeutics Center. There are going to be a couple of horses there, but it's all based on horse art and the relationship between horse and rider, which is very big in this book. Some people think Blackie is the main character in this book, and if you haven't read it, I'm not going to tell you who Blackie is. You got to read the book. We have the MLK committee doing a doll workshop down in after school in Coelho, and it's to show what the Buffalo Soldiers were about, because the male characters in here are pretty much all from the Civil War. Some of them kind of hightailed it before the war was over, but there's a Texas Ranger and there's a U.S. Marshal who's a former Southern Civil War person. It's also the time frame of the Buffalo Soldiers, or the African American cowboys. So they're doing a program of doll making with the Doll Museum after school. Sue Casey's doing a landscape painting workshop down at Coelho as well, because some of the scenes in here, although most of us now know Arkansas really isn't in the West, back then it was. And there are some beautiful scenery descriptions in the book. So she's doing it all based on that whole Western scenery theme. BCC and Bridgewater are doing square dancing. Come on up, do square dancing. They're going on Saturday, they're going to show the new True Grit movie. The Council on Aging's doing the old one. Their writing workshops are doing cowboy poetry, which is a certain cadence in storytelling. We're going to have a country western band at the library on the tail end of this. But there are tons of book discussions for all ages, from preschoolers on up going on. You name it, and we're trying to cover it. And the whole point is to set that mood, set that tone, to get people interested enough in reading the book. And it's really worked in this town. I'll never forget the first year we did it. This gentleman who, probably finished working about 20 years beforehand, lucky guy, came in with Fahrenheit 451 and slammed it on the desk in front of me. And he goes, "My neighbors are talking about this book, and I came here to get it, and it is so wrong. It is not a pleasure to burn." He couldn't read it after the very first sentence of that book, but he was talking about it. And that was the key. He could at least argue with his neighbors now how wrong they were about how good that book was. And that's part of it. We don't want everyone to love this. In fact, I'm dressed up because I didn't start out loving it. I loved it by the end, but I needed to really get in the mood too, so I'm kind of looking a little strange lately, and it fits. This is almost an antique. It really is mine. But that's the point. It's getting folks in the grocery store saying, "Did you see that?" or "Did you hear that?" or "Did you notice that?" And it has worked for us. So we've been pleased. We've been pleased with the school's participation. We already dropped off some books to the high school. We got some to go to Coelho because we work with the schools that want to work with us. Anybody wants to, we can. We're giving out 1,200 books this year. We do it in the grocery stores. We do it at events. Any way we can get them out there, we do try to get them out there. But got to say, it's been great for the library. I think it's been good for the community. Attleboro should be proud of being able to get this grant year after year. The Art Museum's phenomenal with what creative way they come up with to depict the themes from the book. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I do it in less than 10 minutes. Do you have any questions?
Chris?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you for making sure this program continues. This is, I think the first year this started, I was on the Cultural Council. And I remember us talking a lot about how great this program was and how it does a lot to bring the community together around a story. It's not just a book, it's the story of people and the way these stories come to life when you bring them into the larger social environment of the entire community. Because you're not just talking about school kids, you're talking about older people, working people. It really runs the whole breadth of what makes up the city. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. We have a great committee, and in one of those books you have the calendar of events. You'll see all the folks and all the organizations that have gotten involved this year. So I mean, we couldn't do it without them.
Thank
They're
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
I look forward to reading the book. And I know the Sun Chronicle has been a big sponsor of this too, along with the library.
Absolutely.
I read the pull-out section the other day in the paper, and that's why me and my boys showed up on Saturday.
Okay, all right.
I can actually say it took me 2 times, but I wrote my first year.
All right.
But it was nice. There was a lot of kids out there having a good time,
Yeah, it really
getting them
was.
involved and asking questions. And that's what I think what you're important to say. They're asking questions now. What are we doing here? Well, how does this fit into it? That was my son's. Well, it fits into the big read, and this is what the big read is this year. So they asked a lot of questions, and we really had a good time. And it was nice to see the turnout. I mean, your numbers I think were probably a little low, but definitely 150 to 200 and something people. It was really a good time. Everybody enjoyed themselves.
Good. I'm glad you made it. And that's an important thing because even when the high school kids read it, we know that they talk with their parents. In fact, and it gives them something to talk about. But the first year, because of the celebration, Balfour gave us a phenomenal grant. And they brought 5 different specialists down into the middle schools to do art and music programming, even video, and we had a huge exhibit at the museum. And there was a young woman who was at Coelho who, when she was in high school 3 years later, wrote me a letter saying what an impact that program had had on her when she was in school, and that it probably led her to want to study literature when she went to college. So, you know, once in a while we hear those things, and it's so funny because everybody wants to know the book as soon as we end. And when we end, we're like, okay, we need a month off, we meet in December, analyze it, is anyone willing to do it again, write the grant in January, and then we find out in March. And because everybody works really hard at it, it's a little exhausting, but fun. But when you hear that from young people, it's like, wow. To actually have written that to us was wonderful. And so that is kind of what we're looking for, not just with your neighbors or strangers talking to each other, but even within families. Did you get to the Project Connect table to get them they had kids' books to give? Did you
No.
Oh, yeah.
We only made it
You won't
so
tell
far.
them.
I had a hard time with the bush you picked.
So,
But no, it was a great time, and like I said, you know, just like you said, it's more of getting everybody involved in reading something, understanding something, and talking about it.
right.
And it's a great program. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the hard work that's been done for you and the community of making this still something that's happening for Attleboro. I know other communities have dropped it, and I'm glad we were able to maintain this with all the support that we've had. So I want to thank you very much for the
Well,
community.
thank you. Thanks. And we'll
Thank
get
you
you
very
up to
much.
speed. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the new business is school opening update and / transportation. It'll be given by our new superintendent, Mrs. Kendra Sheehan.
Thank you. Members of the committee, you're not just school committee members. In fact, you're the board of trustees for a $65 million business. And this is probably the most important business in the entire city of Attleboro. And so, for the public at large and for you as members, I really need to bring you some specific facts. And so I would like you to all consider the following: that 9 different schools scheduled 5,961 students into different courses of studies in different programs. Added to that equation, the ABACUS program operates AM and PM programs, and there are 33 elementary, 21 middle school, and 21 high school special education individualized student support programs in addition to that. Then think of this fact. The assistant superintendent of schools, the business manager, the special education director, the high school principal, a high school assistant principal, the middle school principal, and 2 elementary principals are just starting their second years as administrators in this district. Then add to that fact, you have a new superintendent of schools, 2 new elementary principals, 2 new assistant secondary principals. And the outcome was that I think that this was an absolutely excellent start of a school year, an excellent opening. With all of the parameters and everything that you've got to think about, it was excellent. And to all of the stakeholders, and I mean every stakeholder, from clerks and custodians who that made our buildings and grounds so beautiful for our kids and teachers to come back and teach, and teachers and the administration who worked all spring and all summer for this opening to happen. The stakeholders did their jobs, and they did them extremely well. But we can't leave out 2 important stakeholders in this. I can't thank the parents enough and the children enough, as they were prepared to come back to school and hit the road running. As Max said, hit the road running. And consequently, you know, the parents did a great job in preparing their kids for those first few days of school and getting ready, getting supplies, materials, and it's a perfect time. Fall's a perfect time. This is really nice to come back to school. Now, were there some bumps along the way? Absolutely. Are there still bumps that we're trying to iron out? We absolutely are. And some of those bumps are in the area of transportation. So at this time, I would like to ask the Director of Transportation, Business Director, Business Manager, Director of Finance, all one guy, by the way, Mr. Rose, to come to the table to give a brief status report on student transportation. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Good evening, school committee members. I have 4 things to say. I'm going to take my watch off. I'll try to keep this under 3 minutes, and then I'll try to answer any questions you might have. First, let me piggyback onto what Superintendent Sheehan said. A huge thank you regarding transportation. 6 groups: parents, students, principals, secretaries, Bloom Bus Company, and our own transportation office all have worked extremely hard, very, very, very diligently, showing tremendous effort and a great deal of patience, and for that I'm deeply appreciative. Second thing I want to say is, most of you might know, this is the first year the Bloom Transportation is actually developing the routes. And when I say they're actually developing the routes, what I mean to say is they're actually entering in all of our students' data, addresses, and all the appropriate information, putting it into a program called Bus Boss, and then running that program and seeing what pops out as to what the routes are going to be. In the past, we did it ourselves. We had our own spreadsheets, we had our own program, we had our own expertise, and we knew exactly what we thought were the best routes. We have to give Bloom Transportation the opportunity to succeed with this particular task, and it is a huge task. And the task is complicated by the fact that there are a stack of changes from the schools, from the transportation office. Some of those changes are inevitable in regard to students moving from one school to another, or in regard to just individuals changing addresses and so on. So I think the second thing I need to mention is to understand that the way that the bus routes are being developed and the way the program is being unfolded this year is different than in the past years. But this year, we're following the contract. In the contract, specifically, the request for proposal, it stated, Bloom Transportation, or whoever wins this award, you're responsible for the routes. And so again, we need to give Bloom Transportation the opportunity to succeed. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that they have succeeded and they'll continue to succeed. The third thing I want to mention, this is the 4th day of school, as Mr. Sheehan was saying in more words. 4th day of school for all the students. The first day of school for kindergarten. Tomorrow's the first day of pre-K. Clearly there are bumps in the road, and I'm not going to suggest that there haven't been. But all things considered, I think that we're doing pretty well. God knows we've got improvement to be made, but I think we're better off at this stage of the year than we were at this same time a year ago. And the last thing I want to say is I just want to address fee for service. As most of you might know, we have a cutoff of August 15th for fee for service. That's not to say that anyone who applies for fee for service after August 15th is automatically totally shut down for the balance of the year. Not at all. But the folks that apply for fee for service on or before the 15th of August, they're given first priority. Now, last year, we had about 250 folks that were given transportation, specifically assigned a bus, on the first day of school. In mid-October, you might recall, we added on another 200 students. So at the balance of the year, we had about 425 to 450 students who were receiving transportation services via what's called the fee-for-service program. And as most of you probably know, that simply means 2 ranges, 0.5 miles to 1.5 miles if you're in grades 1 through 4. And if you're in grades 5 through 12, 1.5 to 2 miles. If you live within those ranges, and you are within those grades, theoretically, the school department doesn't have to transport that particular child. However, we have a fee-for-service program where we're going to try to put as many of those students on a bus as we possibly can. As of today, of those 260 students whose families had submitted the applications by the 15th of August, approximately 125 of those 260 were riding a bus. There's one last thing I want to say, and then I'll stop talking. I believe that we clearly have the potential to bring on the remaining 135. And here's the reason why. However, having said that, I've got to work with Bloom Transportation. Right this week, they're going to do 2 important tasks. Number 1 is they're going to try to punch in all the changes that they're getting from school to school. As you probably know, you punch in the data into BusBoss, a file comes out, you send the file to the school looks at the file, they say change this, change that, and it goes back, and it's a tennis match. And you have that going on with 9 schools. So the first step is, let's try to get all the changes in. But the second step is, well, let's look at our bus counts, and let's see how many people we have actually riding the buses. And so there will be changes, I'm sure, that will be made. But per the bus routes, this is a quick breakout, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll try to answer any questions you have. Right now, we're going to pay, our plan is to pay for 27 buses. The contract calls for 29. In working with the transportation office, I believe we can run this program with 27 buses and 11 minibuses. If we need to add more buses, we will. I promise you. I will go to the school committee, I'll go to you and I'll say, you know what, we need to add one more bus, can you please help? But we're not at that point yet. I just want to give you a quick breakdown. Of the 27 buses we have, right now, only 26 have actually been assigned to a particular route. 21 of those 26 buses have either 3 runs or 4 runs. And as you probably know, we have the high school, and then we have the middle school, and then the elementary schools are broken into 2 separate runs. We have, let me take my cheat notes here, we have 3 schools, Hill Roberts, Hyman Fine, and Thatcher, that start the day at 8:45, and we have Studley and Willett that start the day at 8:15. So of the remaining 5 buses that are currently operating, 2 of those buses have 2 runs, 3 of those buses have 1 run. So the major message I'm trying to convey is this. I promise you, I'm not going to come to you, the school committee, and say, we got to add another bus, unless I'm absolutely certain that we've got good head counts across the board on these buses. And Bloom Transportation, they're not going to come to me or come to you and ask for a bus unless they know for sure that it's absolutely needed. But right now, once again, 4 days into the year, 1 day with kindergarten, it's still being ironed out. I said that would be the last thing I'll say. I'm cheating. I'm going to say one more thing. For you parents who have a kindergarten child and who might have questions because you're not sure what bus your child is supposed to get on, I just want to pass on this message. And this is just for the kindergarten parents. And the message is this. For tomorrow, open up the Attleboro School website. On the right-hand side, you'll see the Family Portal tab. Click on the Family Portal tab. Under Family Portal, you'll see Transportation. Under Transportation, you'll see bus routes. Click on the school that your kindergarten child goes to. Click on the routes. Find the route that's closest to where you live. Find the bus stop that's closest to where you live. Have your child at that bus stop tomorrow morning. You can gauge the approximate time because they'll show the start time, and it's about 3 minutes between each stop, and your child will get a ride to school, to and from school. I absolutely positively promise you that. It's just, that's the best way to get your child to the bus stop. If you kindergarten parents have any questions out there. Or you are welcome to call me. And my number, cell phone number, 774-222-1420. Now, let me stop talking. Let me pass everything back to you. For questions, comments on anything.
First of all, Tom, don't feel that you're in any time constraints. This is a very important issue. So if you have something you want to share with the committee, we more than want to hear it. Even though you're passing out your cell phone number like that. That's an awful dangerous thing, but I mean, if you're willing to do that, Tom, that's fine with me. Mr. Murphy and then Mr. Parent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Rose, for that recitation of all the various issues that the transportation folks are currently dealing with. I'm sure you know, and I think I can sort of tell by the inflection in your voice and the depth of your presentation, that this is one of the issues that school committee members hear from constituents on with great frequency, particularly in the first few weeks of school. It's also something that as Mr. Sheen pointed out, and I think as you did as well, that it does require a great deal of patience on everyone's part because they're just the inevitable challenges that come through those first few weeks of school. So I would just say, rather than presume that any particular concerns that I've heard from just my own individual capacity are representative of the concerns of parents en masse, that and you tell me if I'm wrong, that we are well aware that there are several different issues that continually to be worked out, that some of them have to do with the length of time, some of them have to do with the routes themselves, some of them have to do with the number of students on buses, and that your office and that Bloom will be vigilant in resolving these issues as quickly and professionally as possible.
Absolutely, Mr. Murphy. Well said. The answer is yes. I agree with everything you've said.
And that's not to, I mean, as you said, you now have our business manager's phone number, and I think you should, parents should use it at will.
Please, please, feel free to, please.
Sure, maybe we could even have it go across the screen as you talk. We'll pass that on to DoubleACS. But I would just say that, I mean, this is something, it's going to take, I hope, just a matter of weeks. I think just a matter of days is not realistic. A matter of months will not be acceptable. But I think that's sort of the time frame we're working on, and you just have to be mindful of making sure that the committee is aware of any new concerns that come up, and we'll obviously continue to pass them on as we hear them.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Will do.
Thank you. Ken?
Tom, I actually went on the website today and looked at the portal. Very, very nice, very succinct. I was very happy to see that there. When I clicked on families, looked at all the buses, and it was very easy to follow. And I think it's very, very helpful for families. I wondered why we never did that in the past, to be honest with you. I think it was very nice this year. The second thing I just want to say, let's just follow up this on the next finance meeting. We can just put this on the finance agenda. We can talk a little bit more about busing. You'll have another week and a half of data. And finally, that's about all.
Tom, first of all, my first statement would be to my full school committee here. I mean, if yes, Mr. Murphy's correct. It's probably one of the biggest things we get is transportation in the opening of the school year. I mean, I'm hoping that all school committee members make sure that they deliver that message to you, okay? That belongs in the transportation department. We as a school committee need to oversee and make sure that a reasonable answer has been given, but not to try to jump into transportation. That's not our job. That's your job. But I think I'll have to add to that because I think I made it pretty clear in an email to one constituent who had a problem. And I'll be clear about this. I received a letter. Yes, I received a letter a week before school open. I think it was a Friday before school open. And I expressed my concerns to Tom and Superintendent Sheen about that. I thought that letter was way too late in the year. But the reason and the rationale behind that was clear. So as much as that's something we have to work on, and I'm fee for transportation, that's all I'm talking about here. But there's things that we have to bring out to the community that they need to know. And I think the first thing that we need to know is the Attleboro School Committee at one time had voted to, the Mass General law says 2 miles for elementary. The Attleboro Public Schools made it 1.5 miles. So we're a lot more liberal than the state tells us that we have to be. And that's a big point, and it causes logistical concerns also in the same time. This school committee itself, within the last 1.5 years, has implemented full-day kindergarten, which added to all, because all kindergartners have to be provided with free transportation. That's the law. We also, the committee before us initiated a 20-minute longer elementary school day. So these are all things that transportation the last couple of years, if people ask why it seemed to get totally confusing, it wasn't because of a bus company change. It was because of policies that the school committees made. Full day K, 20-minute longer elementary school. Like Tom said, there's so many routes. You get middle schools, elementary schools at the high school level. And this committee also implemented a policy that deviated from Mass law that said instead of 1 hour was the maximum that children could spend on a bus, we made it 45 minutes. So these are all things that we've done as an Attleboro school district that have kind of changed transportation in Attleboro within the last 3 years, if you will. And I think the last thing you talked about was the scheduling. And people look at it as, well, the bus company should do the scheduling. Well, the bus company, we made that the responsibility, but I think they also need to know that the schools need to know that scheduling. It's vital for our schools to know, each principal in our schools, to know what kids are on what bus, their vital information. So it's not as far as them making the routes. It's transferring that information back to the schools if it needed, because Lord forbid if there's a case where there's a school bus accident or something like that, we need to make sure that the Attleboro Public Schools and the Bloom Transportation is on the same page. So I just don't want somebody to poop on it. Is it difficult? Yes, it is, but we need to have and that was not happening a couple of years ago. There was not a free-flowing information, if you will, between the bus company and the school. So that became a priority. So, and I know, Tom, you and your people have spent a lot of time during the summers trying to get this right, and I think you guys did a great job on these routes. But like I say, the only thing I would say is we have to, in coming forward into the next year, for FY15, is we got to be a little more proactive. And when you talked about the fees for transportation, yeah, it's in August 15th was the deadline?
Yes.
But and nobody wants to hear this, but I'm one of them, so I have to say it. There's no guarantee. When you are putting in an application for fee for service, it's just asking if your child, if there's a seat available on that bus, that your child can occupy one of those seats. But Mass law tells us in school committee policy that if a child lives outside those parameters, they're guaranteed a seat. We cannot take that seat until that child, in some way, shape, or form, is not riding that bus. I mean, it's not like we can have them, we talked about it before, about maybe a parent signing a letter saying that their child is not going to ride the bus for FY14 school year. And they're reluctant to do so because there might be a day or two where they cannot. You know, some people enjoy driving their kids to school. They have the luxury, I should say, of bringing their children to school and picking them up. But we cannot take that seat away from them by law. And I just think that's important when we talk about things here when it comes to transportation. We don't want to give off the cuff answers, because we have laws and policies that dictate how we are able to provide transportation to our students. And when we start combining those things in a way where we're not being clear about it, that causes a little bit of concern, because people are like, well, my child last year or the year before, I've had parents concerned kindergarten with, kindergarten's different. All kindergartners get free transportation. That's a law. So I just respect what you guys have done a great job this year. I know you have, and I know you're going to, in the next week or so, figure this whole thing out, and everybody's going to be happy. But transportation is not something that we can shoot for 100% being happy. It's just not, it's not makeable sometimes. We have so many buses, and it's not like we can send one full bus over to such and such street down in South Attleboro to pick up 2 children. I mean, that's just not, it's not feasible. So again, Tom, I just want to put those little facts out there, and I'm not trying to cloud the water, if you will, but
And you're not, Chairman, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
just trying to answer some of the, constituents' questions that have been brought to me. So thank you, Tom and Brenda.
The other thing too is that Mr. Sheehan, in working with the business manager, pupil transportation director of making sure all kids can do whatever your title is now. 2 things. When we're cashing parents' checks, as a school committee, we have to look at that too. When people are paying fee for service, whether they're leaving at the end of the year, sending it in July, as a parent, in what how I would take it is that when you pay your money or you cash my check, I feel my kid's going to be on the bus the first day of school. So there's a flaw right there that we need to look at, because that's one thing that, as a parent, that's how I would take it. They cash my check, my kid's at a bus stop, not on the bus. So that's one thing that we look at, the direction between the superintendent and yourself. Absolutely. There's a flaw, I believe, somewhere in between there that that is missing. Like, we need to fix that. The second thing is that a lot of schools have a pupil transportation director. And Mr. Rose, I just want to put it out there that you, as our business manager with a $65 million empire, if you will, is that for you to be looking at our contracts, watching the monies, making sure kids are on a bus with transportation, we as a district now have to look at, there should be a pupils transportation director. And with these issues coming up and talking with other communities, I feel that that's a huge position. We're not in the business for busing. That's not our job. We're in the business to educate kids, to be able to leave here and be successful. So we look at that too, Superintendent Sheehan, that we don't have that, and maybe that is something to the direction we need to. But it's hard. It's extremely hard to bus the kids and to make sure they're on the right bus when you have a lot of people in the mix. And I am extremely, extremely grateful that we actually had Bloom, which they're in the busing business, that's their nature, that they actually put together the routes that's what we hired them to do and pay millions of dollars to do. And with that being said, Bloom stepped up to the plate as a busing company with all of your help. I understand there were so many hands in there and helping, but it had to be done, that they were successful because we allowed them to do their job. And thank you, and I'm glad that was a lot easier, and I know moving forward that we will be definitely looking at that. But as a school committee, those two items are very important about how we do fee for service, cashing checks before we even know if maybe they're on the bus. And the second thing is that we have a pupils transportation director, and so there's a lot on your plate. I know there's a lot on your plate, and it shouldn't be that way. I want you to worry about the budget and the finances more than worrying about, which I'm very grateful that you worry about our kids getting to school. But I appreciate it. It's been a lot on your shoulders, and I do see it, and looking into it more, I do see that we do need to make changes for the better too. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs.
Bill?
Mr. Chairman, similar to yourself, I've been through the fee for service, and it's always been a non-guaranteed issue. All the paperwork I've ever seen on it, if you read it for what it's saying, it's not guaranteeing. My check has always been cashed, and actually that was, in my opinion, a good thing, because that meant that I was in the lottery at least at that point. Certainly not a problem looking at the verbiage, but the verbiage is all there. I'm sure you've seen it yourself, so.
Well, thank you, Bill. And I just want to touch on that. You're absolutely right. I mean, when you sign the paperwork, I'm one, so I have a lot of vested knowledge in this. If there is an available seat, and I think the only guarantee it does is what Tom said. The administration is going to guarantee they're going to do their utmost to try to provide a seat for that child on a bus. But if it can't happen, it can't happen. It's kind of funny, when I was in Houston, Texas years ago, transportation for none. The whole school district of Houston, Texas, for none. You have to bring your child to school, you have to pick it up. And it was kind of mind-boggling to me, but you're absolutely right, Bill. I mean, it's not a guarantee. I don't know about the cashing of the checks or not. I mean, some checks go void after 30 days. So I think the district does a right job in accepting the check and then making the refund if they cannot do so immediately, and usually within the first 2 weeks. So, Tom, I know you've really been working hard on this, and I appreciate all the work you and the people in the transportation department have. And if we need to add that bus, I'm sure you will. But I think even Bloom knows, they don't want to push an extra bus on the road to us because of the expense and also the liability that it causes Bloom to have an extra bus on the road. So, again, Tom, I want to thank you very much, and Bill and Dave, you got to.
Yeah, I just had one final comment. Right now, as I think we've all made clear and you made clear in your comments, the priority has to be resolving all of the issues that have cropped up in the first week, and will continue to over the next week or so. So I want to be very clear. That is, and I think the Finance Subcommittee, as Mr. Parent said, is a good place for you to continue to keep the committee informed in addition to our other communications. When those priorities have been, when those issues have been resolved, though, I do think it would be helpful and beneficial for the committee, for the administration, for the school system as a whole, to really sort of detail all of the issues that we have collectively dealt with over the course of the last month of the summer and the first month of the school year. Because, again, our priority is resolving the current issues and getting all the kids that need to be in school tomorrow there on time and home on time. But in order for the committee to make informed decisions going forward, we need to have as much information as possible. As we've said, and as you made clear that you know, this is one of those ones where political pressure builds quickly because it's something that parents get rightfully angry about, and we're very grateful to all the parents for their patience that they've exhibited. But we don't want to make rash political decisions, and the only way we can avoid that is if you provide us with as much information as possible so we can put it into the context of all the other decisions that we have to make. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheen.
Mr. Murphy, 4 central office administrators, myself, Mr. Sawyer, Mrs. McCarthy, and Mr. Rose have started more than 1 month ago putting that list together for you about the complication of the busing, and I guarantee you will have all the information to make the appropriate decisions for the Attleboro Public Schools.
And I'm not surprised by that, Mr. Sheen, in any way, and I appreciate it very much. And I'm sure that you understand my point that this is important not just so we can make sure we make correct decisions with regard to transportation, staffing, and everything else, but so that those decisions can be made in the context of all the other decisions that we have to make, many of which have both budgetary and educational impacts.
And when you see what you'll be presented with, it will be far more reaching than you had ever imagined, because
I have a big imagination, but
there are 8 major lists of material that get sent, covering thousands of children in different levels in the Attleboro Public Schools. And the bottom line is that, along with all the things that we've been dealing with, you uncover some pitfalls and some structural problems and organizational problems within the Attleboro Public Schools that have to be fixed, because I don't want to do this next summer. I don't want to spend the last 4 weeks of the summer doing this. We have to do other things that are more germane to the education of kids than transportation. So all of these things will be fixed way before the beginning of next school year. And that takes a lot of
Max is going to miss
changes.
out because he's graduating, but
Max is coming back.
There you
He's
go.
going to help us this last summer.
Good.
Before he goes to school.
That
He said he's going to help me.
perfect. That's what happens when you sit at the table, Max. You get signed up for jobs.
Signed up.
But I think that is important because, as you said, you've got other priorities. You've got other things that need to be done, and the decisions that we make with regard to this must be in the context of all those other issues. So thank you for that.
Tom, again, thank you very much. I know
Thank
it's
you,
been a
Mr.
lot of
Chairman.
hard work, and you spent the whole summer doing it. And I can honestly tell you, I have not, I received about 5 complaints before the school's open. I have not received the one since, so that shows a lot. And I thank you for answering the committee's emails in a timely fashion and getting this thing on the road. I really appreciate it, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. School.
Mr. Sheen, do you have anything more on the school opening update?
I'm good.
Okay, moving on to our next item on the new business. Personnel report, Dave Sawyer, our Assistant Superintendent. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. I have several items for you on the personnel report this evening. First is a retirement, Robert Mold, custodian at Wamsutta. I have several resignations, Deb Anslavar, speech language pathologist at the high school, Amanda Bessanair, math teacher at the high school, Kristen Flynn, SPED Insights teacher at Willett, Kim Ledoux, paraprofessional at the high school, Matthew Traveline, paraprofessional at the network program, Marissa Batista, speech language pathologist assistant for Thatcher.
We sent special funds of 5230. County special funds of $1,238.53. Federal and state grants of $4,659.47. Revolving funds $5,737.58. Incumbent federal and state $504.74. Incumbent revolving $640.25. Second one dated August 14, 2013, amount $34,696.18, of which special funds make up $6,355.58. Federal and state grants $90,121.02. Revolving funds of $9,219.58. Third one dated August 21st, 2013, an amount of $318,324. $2,058.89, of which appropriations make up $297,430.38. Special funds $326.24. Federal and state grants $17,571.99. Revolving funds $2,867.71. Federal and state grants of $128.58. Fourth and last one, August 28th, 2013, amount of $172,547.85. Appropriations of $158,525.09. Special funds $7,000. Federal and state grants $4,987.30. Revolving funds $2,034.56. For warrants, I gotta read the record. The next meeting of the Finance Committee will be a week from Wednesday on September 18th at 7 p.m. And Mr. Chair concludes our business.
Thank you, Ken. On the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, our next meeting will be held on the 8th of October at 6:30 p.m. That concludes my report. Thank you.
On the Policy Subcommittee, Ms. Furtado?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to report at this time, but our next meeting will be held next Monday, September 16th, 2013, in this room, and the time will be 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody note the change from 7 to 5 p.m.
And that, Mr. Chairman, concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on. Going to make a motion to enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and consistent with General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection 7, for the purpose of reviewing executive session minutes in compliance with the open meeting law and the public records law. The committee will not be returning to open session.
Second.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Furtado?
Yes.
Mr. Tyler, yes. Ms. Correll?
Yes.
Mr. Parent?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Zito? Okay. Session's closed.
We had the pile.
I remember the old